Hi there and thanks for watching. If you like the content of this video, please like and subscribe. Alright, let's learn about inheritance in Java. Inheritance is all about not repeating yourself. Essentially, having code sit in one place and then being able to reuse it. So let me explain what I mean by that. Let's say we've got some sort of app, maybe a game, maybe it's some sort of vehicle management system, but we've got a vehicle class. Vehicles have fuel, speed, and number of passengers. Some vehicles have 2 passengers, some vehicles have 50, who knows, depends on what it is. So I've got a constructor and some getters and setters for all of my fields, and it's pretty much a plain Jane vehicle, as you can see. All right, now vehicles can also drive. So for example, I've got public void drive, and system.out.println, this vehicle goes vroom vroom. All right, so everything looks normal, right? So I can just go ahead and make a vehicle. So I'll do vehicle, Bugatti, however that's spelled, new vehicle. And there we go. And then we can put some speed and number of passengers in it, and there we go. And that's what we're normally used to with classes. But now, next week, we've got a new class that our game needs to take into account. And that's a hovercraft. No problem. We'll just make a new class for the hovercraft. So new class, hovercraft, awesome. All right, cool. And now, well, a hovercraft is a lot like a vehicle. It's got, fuel, speed, number of passengers. So why don't I just copy and paste, right? That's fine. And then the thing that separates a hovercraft from a vehicle would be private and maybe float speed, because hovercrafts float by definition. And we'll use IntelliJ to make our constructor and our getters and setters, because ain't nobody got time for that. And there we go. So hunky-dory, right? Everything's looking good. Well, all right, next week they want a tank. And we're like, oh, okay, we had another class as a tank. Wait a second, do I just copy and paste all the stuff from vehicle over? All right, but I could, but then what happens if I have 50 of these classes I have to copy and paste stuff over? So this is starting to get pretty inefficient. The other problem is, what happens when hovercraft changes? What if one of these methods is different? Or what if I change something in vehicle? Well, it doesn't affect hovercraft at all. So a change, if I have to make a change, we have to change all 50 classes one by one, and that would not be fun. So what we can do is that we can instead use inheritance to help us. Inheritance in Java uses the extends keyword, so we're going to do public class tank extends vehicle. Right? And that's all you got to really type in order to get inheritance. What that means is, now that vehicle is the parent class and tank is the child class. Okay, vehicle is the parent, tank is the child. So you can think of like a family tree. All right, cool. Now, IntelliJ is complaining at me, and that's fine. The reason it's complaining is because it needs a constructor. All right, create constructing matching super. I just use IntelliJ to make it for me, and we'll go over what this means. All right, but let's say first a tank is different than a vehicle, because maybe a tank has, I don't know, a shooting range. And maybe a tank has armor, like an armor rating. Like some tanks are stronger than other tanks. All right, now we're going to have our constructor, which will need a shooting range, and we'll also need an armor rating. All right, but now we have this super thing. What does that mean? Super refers to the parent class. So I always think of Superman flying above, it's a bird, it's a plane kind of thing, right? So Superman's flying high above us. All right, the parent class is above the child class. So it's vehicle on top and then tank beneath it. So what this is saying is, hey, go run the constructor for the parent. So super says, hey, go to the parent and run this constructor. Because remember, the constructor here takes fuel, speed, and number of passengers. So all super is doing is say, hey, once you get to here, go up to vehicle and run this. Okay, and then after that, you do what you want. So after that, we'll do what we need to do for specifically the tank. So we'll do this dot shooting range equals shooting range, and this dot armor rating equals armor rating. All right. So now I can make getters and setters for just my new shooting range and armor rating. And now I don't need to write all those other methods I did up in vehicle. So if we go back to main.java, when I do tank, so let's do tank equals new tank. And I'm going to do my constructor. I'm just going to put some numbers in here, 50, number of passengers 3, I have no idea. Shooting range 100, armor rating 50. Now I do tank dot get number of passengers. Oh, that's IntelliJ totally says that's a thing. Well, wait a second. I did not write that method anywhere in tank. There is no get number of passengers in the tank.java, but there is in vehicle. And because it's in vehicle right here, that means that the tank class inherits. It gets a copy of it. So therefore, I can do tank.get number of passengers. So all these methods in this class vehicle that are public get carried over into the child class of tank. Now, a couple things about inheritance in Java. You can inherit from no more than one class. So for example, I could not inherit from both vehicle and, I don't know, hovercraft. Okay, that's just not a thing. Okay, you can inherit from at most one class. However, you can have vehicle can be the parent class to a bunch of children. So for example, you can have vehicle and then have hovercraft and tank both inherit from it, or have 3 or 4 or 5 children. Okay, that's all well and good. That's fine. Okay, one child can have at most one parent, but a parent can have any number of children that you want it to have. And that makes it great because now we can kind of refactor hovercraft extends vehicle. All right, and now we just need to change the constructor a bit. So I'm going to get rid of this. Instead, we're going to do super. And we're going to do fuel, speed, number of passengers. So it says basically, hey, go to the super means, hey, go to the parent class and run its constructor. And then after that, you can continue doing whatever it was you were doing. And now all of this stuff, I kind of just don't need. Okay, I will keep the float speed because that's different for a hovercraft, but these other getters and setters can just kind of go away. Don't need them. All right, and now my hovercraft class is a lot slimmer, right, which is pretty cool. So now I have tanks, which extends from vehicle, and hovercraft, which extends from vehicle. So that means a vehicle can have multiple children. But again, a single child can have no more than one parent. All right, and that means when I come into here and I make myself a new hovercraft, equals new hovercraft, and we can just put some stuff in here. I don't know how many passengers fit into a hovercraft. Okay, and now you'll notice the hovercraft also has get fuel, get number of passengers, get speed, okay, all that good stuff. All right, so awesome. All right, now it looks like my application is much more extensible. I can add new stuff cleanly and easily without a lot of pain. All right, let's say next week that they come back and say, hey, Jonathan, we've got hovercrafts, we got tanks, and now another vehicle. Okay, what vehicle are we going to add? We're going to add helicopters. All right, cool, helicopter. And we'll just do helicopter extends vehicle. All right, cool. And then we're going to go ahead. I'm just going to let IntelliJ make my constructor mostly for me. All right, and let's say helicopters are different because they can maneuver. They have maybe blade speed. I'm just pulling stuff out of the air. Private int blade speed. So we'll do int blade speed, and then we'll add it to here. This dot blade speed equals blade speed. Awesome. And then, I mean, cool. As you see how quick that was, we just added helicopter. It's a vehicle, and all the other stuff from vehicle was added to it. So now, if we go back to the parent class, we may have a possible problem. The parent class has this drive method. All right, public void drive, and it will print out this vehicle goes vroom, vroom, vroom. Okie doke. So let's go ahead and make a tank, a hovercraft, and a helicopter. Equals new helicopter. 310, I don't know, 2, whatever. All right, now I can do tank.drive because that drive method is in the parent, hovercraft.drive, and helicopter.drive. I've never heard of someone driving a helicopter. You pilot one, but let's just say you drive a helicopter. Okay, cool. So let's run and see what happens. So if I run my program, and then we can see that we get vroom vroom. So we run my program, we get vroom vroom. But wait a second. Like, tanks and hovercrafts and helicopters make different sounds. So the parent class has the drive method, and all the children inherit from it, but maybe some of the children want to do something different. Well, we can handle that. Java gives us what's called an override. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into hovercraft. I'm going to go down towards the bottom, and I'm going to do @override, and then we're going to do public void drive. Now, why do we do it this way? The method has to be the same signature. So this is the signature part of the method, public void drive. So if we're going to override it, it has to be exactly the same. Now that we've overridden it with this @override, we can do something different for the hovercraft. So we can be like, the hovercraft goes whoosh. I don't know what sound hovercrafts make, but in my imagination, they go whoosh. So now, instead of doing what the parent class says to do, we are overriding it and saying, this is what we want to do. We're going to live our own life. So I'm going to run it. And then notice the hovercraft goes foosh, whereas the other two went vroom. So now I can have the helicopter do something different. I can override and do public void drive and do s out. The helicopter goes chop, 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 I guess is this the sound I would say that they make. I don't know. All right, and now when I run it, the vehicle goes vroom, vroom, the hovercraft goes foosh, the helicopter goes chop, chop, chop. All right, and the tank, I didn't add an override because maybe the tank does go vroom, in which case I don't have to do anything. So the override allows us to pick and choose which methods we want to basically do our own thing, and if we don't care, we can just go ahead and use the default method, the default implementation from the parent. So as you can see, inheritance saves us a whole lot of typing. So to review, okay, use the extends keyword to indicate that you are inheriting from another class. So hovercraft extends vehicle. You can only inherit for up to one class. You can inherit from 2 or 3, just one. But a parent can have as many children as need be. You'll notice that the fields, the methods from the parent will get inherited, and that means they'll get copied over. So for example, vehicle has a drive method, a set speed method, or etc. That means the children will also get those methods. All right, everything will be copied down, okay, which is great. And then if we want to do something different in the child, so for example, in vehicle, I have this drive method, but I want a helicopter to do something different than what's written in the parent class, I can override the parent class's method and do my own thing. All right, this is the basics of inheritance, okay? And then once you get this down, you can do a lot of really cool things like polymorphism.